Hello, everyone. My name is Leah Neiman, and this is Game On Digital Strategies for Families. I first want to say, don't worry about trying to grab screenshots or try to get your phone out. A lot of people do that when I speak in a session to get screenshots of any of the slides. I make these available for you along with a PDF handout that has links and things like that for the resources. So you can just really sit back and use the handout to take notes if you want. But then you'll notice in your handout there are links, and then there's additional handout with the slides so that you can have the images from the slides that you might want that are the walk by walkthroughs of how to secure some of your accounts. All right, so I am going to share my screen here so we can get started. All right. So, as I said, this is Game On Digital Media Strategies for Families. One thing I find as I speak to families across the country is a lot of times we do not have a strategy at all for technology in our home. So I really, really hope by the end of this session that you're going to come away with kind of the tools and a really healthy toolbox that so that you can begin to put together a digital media strategy for your family. But before we can get started with that, we really need to understand some of the differences in the generations between us and why we think differently and sometimes have trouble understanding each other and talking over and around each other. So many of us are digital immigrants. What do we mean by that? We mean that technology wasn't something that was a part of our everyday life as we were growing up. So typically, it's those of us who were born before 1980, for most of North America anyway. You'll see some differences around the world depending on how technological savvy or if technology was available in those countries. So some countries, if you were born in countries that maybe are considered third world countries, they didn't have technology even after that date. So again, there are some variances, but as a general rule of thumb, before 1980, for most of North America, we're born before the widespread adoption of technology. So we weren't exposed to it from an early age. We didn't use it as part of our everyday life, certainly not part of our everyday educational life. So we're less likely to pick up technology. It takes us a little while longer, and we speak with an accent. So what do I mean by those two things? Things like when an update gets pushed out for our phones, right? So you'll notice when an update gets pushed out, younger generations, they're so excited. They're like, yes, a new update, finally, I'll get these patches. And those of us who are digital immigrants were like, oh no, a new update. Now I have to figure things out. Things are going to move around. What am I going to do? Like we freak out about it, right? And so what does it mean to speak with an accent? Well, those of us who use technology a lot, just like when you learn a foreign language, your accent may not be as heavy because you use it a lot. So if you use technology for your work and use it heavily, you'll have a very faint accent. But if you don't use technology a lot in your work and in your life, your accent may maybe be a little thicker. So I like to talk about this a lot in families. So you'll see this across families, and it will create friction points within families. So you'll have families and maybe one spouse uses technology a lot because of their job, and the other spouse might not use technology a lot. So they're going on a family vacation, and the spouse that uses technology a lot is perfectly fine and content to have everything loaded up to their phone, the maps, the travel plans. They want everything in Dropbox and on file. They want the plane tickets on their phone. And meanwhile, the spouse that doesn't use technology a lot is panicking, just panicking because they want everything printed off. Because what happens if the phone dies? What happens if the charge on the battery doesn't, dies and they lose power, and then the ticket that's on their phone isn't going to work at the airport? And those things can cause major stress and anxiety. And so when those things begin to happen within families, we start to hit these friction points. So when we talk about speaking with an accent and working within families, all those things come into play. All right, so let's talk about digital natives. Digital natives were mostly born after 1980 for most of North America again. So they were born into a world where technology was a given. They were exposed to technology from an early age. Their daily activities included learning and using digital technology. So they probably used technology for in school in some way or another, and that ramps up as they get as the age of the child is more younger and younger, so going more towards the age that we're in now. So for instance, kids now, like, I mean, before they even hit school, have touched an iPad, where kids that, millennials, most of them probably didn't touch an iPad before they entered school. So again, when you're talking about how fluid people are with technology, the exposure to it is what matters. So when you're talking about daily activities, how much was learning included in the daily activities? And for these digital natives, they can't remember a time when technology didn't exist. So, why is that important within family dynamics and even within our friendships and the people in our circle, in our sphere? Because we will sometimes get frustrated when we are having these family conversations, especially as parents. And we will say, I've told you that like so many times, don't you remember? And when we have these conversations related around technology, we have to understand as digital immigrants that our digital natives, they literally don't remember a time because they were never born into a time where technology didn't exist. So when we say things to them like, everyone you meet online is one of our rules, might not be who they say they are. Don't you understand that? They literally don't, because they've never experienced a world where there was a difference between the online world and a world where you only know people in the physical space. That world to them has always been merged. And now our newest generation is called Generation Alpha. These are children that are 7 years old and under. So they're typically born from, there's a little bit of variances between the age, but typically from 2010 to it's gonna go through 2025. So these are children of millennials, and they're often called iGen, and often called iGen. So they're the two generations. They don't know and they can't imagine a world without iPads and apps. And these are our kids that are also not going to know a world without voice technology, AI assistants. They have a great influence over millennials because millennials are their parents. So that really is making a change within family dynamics as well, because these young kids are the next generation of school kids that go into school. They influence millennials as far as purchasing goes and as far as interacting within the home. So we have a whole new generation. And if you are a homeschooling parent, it's likely that you may have a Generation Alpha child. And so that's going to be important when you're considering education, even how we work within families, spending, how we spend, how we purchase, all of that sort of stuff. So understand that Generation Alpha, they're not only a digital child, but they are a digital child who is strongly influenced by voice assistance that's natural to them. And what really hit me about that is we are now grandparents, and I am realizing that my grandchildren are going to grow up hearing me say, "Okay, Google," because that's something that we do in our home every day. All right. Understanding this helps us go into the future, understanding how the differences in our generations and understanding what we were born into, and how our thinking aligns helps us really be on the same team. Because so many times we have these struggles and we're all headed in the same direction, we're all on the same team, but because we were born into different cultures, we feel like we're butting heads all the time, when really we are on the same team and we have different strengths, and we can use the strengths of our family team members and even our friends to fight the same battles and to build each other up. So an example of that is those of us that are digital immigrants, we are very concrete focused. We know how to hit the next level, hit the next level, hit the next level. We're very ladder think in our thinking. Millennials and digital natives, they're very fluid. They can easily go across boundaries because they were born into a world where the internet just took them wherever they wanted to go. So they can just, go across all kinds of cultural boundaries. And so, how can we use that as a strength? Well, one thing that digital natives struggle with is they struggle with how to hit the next goal and hit the next goal and hit the next goal because they have so much information coming at them all the time. And so we can help them as digital immigrants, we can help them goal set and help them hit the next goal and hit the next goal. But what can we learn from our digital natives? We can understand how to really reach out and cross those boundaries that we before weren't bold or didn't understand how to cross those boundaries. So really, we can learn from each other and understand that we're all on the same team. All right, Benjamin Franklin says, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. And so many times that is what happens with us and within our families because we don't have a plan for media in our home at all. So let's dive in here and talk about what we really need to do practically to set our family up for success. So we're not fighting amongst each other and we have a goal and we're all working on one team together. Okay, so understand as the parent, you are coaching your team. You are on the same team. So there's 6 things that I want you to really remember that you need to focus on and work with on your kids as they are in your home and you're coaching your team. Number 1, teach your young kids to never give out their personal information online. And again, this goes back to understanding that our kids don't understand that the everyone that they meet online isn't who they say they are, and that is teaching our kids that. So because they were born into a world where it's always been digital, so we will sometimes get frustrated and say, well, I told them that once. I told them not to give out their personal information online once. You have to tell them that again and again, and you may need to tell them that and then be watchful and then tell them again and remind them, because they literally don't understand that. They don't understand that they shouldn't be giving out their personal information online because these online spaces are public and networked. That's something that they can't comprehend. So teach your children not to give out their personal information online. Number 2, keep your kids, young kids, out of chat rooms that aren't monitored. And when I say monitored, I'm talking about monitored with a human person. And for very young kids, that's what's called whitelisted. So they type in something, it goes to someone that's human. So it's kind of held for moderation, and then it goes live. Because again, young kids don't understand that concept of who I meet online might not be who they say they are. And also, they're still learning those dynamics of communication and how we communicate and all of those things. So we want those chat rooms to be monitored. Number 3, those you meet online might not be who they say they are. So they very well might be who they say they are, but they might not be. And so because of that small percentage of that, we need to protect you. I've had a lot of parents say, if I tell my child that, then I might make them scared. That's okay. We teach our kids there are rules when there is a reasonable danger. Um, we teach our kids not to run when we go to the pool because they might slip and fall and get hurt. So it's the same concept when we are online. We teach our children that there is a reasonable expectation of how to be safe online. And one of those is that those that they meet online may not be who they say they are. And so until they are old enough to learn how to look for those red flags, we teach them that everyone they meet online might not be who they say they are. And so they don't give out their personal information. And we keep them out of chat rooms that aren't monitored. So we're teaching them those rules until we can let out a little more yarn as they get older and a little more yarn. Okay, so number one, never give out your personal information online. Number two, keep kids out of chat rooms that aren't monitored with active human monitoring. Number three, those who you meet online might not be who they say they are. Number four, home is a no secret zone. So I used to tell my kids, if someone tells you, hey, this is a secret, don't tell your mom and dad, that is exactly what you tell mom and dad. And that especially holds true for the world online. And then parents, what you have to do is if your child comes to you and they tell you, hey, so and so told me something, and it's something that just like makes you want to freak out, you cannot freak out in front of them. Because what that does for your child is it teaches them that when they tell you certain things, it's going to upset you. And then they're not going to want to tell you those things again. So you're going to have to do the big brave thing. And when they come to you and they're brave and they tell you that horrible, really scary thing, you have to not freak out. You can, you know, go in your closet later, go in the bathroom and have your freak out session, but you hold your composure in front of your child and you say, thank you for telling me that. And then you dig into whatever you need to dig into um, to fix that situation, whether it's something came through the filter or whether it's your child wandered off into an area that they didn't need to wander off into, but you deal with that situation, but you make sure that you maintain your composure in front of your child so that they come and they tell you those big scary things that you need to know about. All right, so number four is home is a no secret zone. Number five, passwords are always private except for mom and dad. All right, so teach your kids that they don't share those passwords with their friends, other people. They don't give those passwords out online because there are more kids that have had their accounts hacked by friends than anything else. So their friends may change, so their passwords aren't shared to by anyone except mom and dad. All right, and number six, never download anything without permission. So teach your kids not to download anything and explain to them why, that they may be downloading something that's malware. Sometimes things look like they're too free to be true. And a lot of times that's because it is, that it's actually a malicious file. So teach them that they are not to download anything without permission. All right, so did you get all those so that you could write them down on your paper? All right, let me recap them really quickly. Number one, never give out personal information. Number two, keep kids out of chat rooms that aren't monitored. Number three, those who you meet online might not be who they say they are. Number four, home is a no secret zone. Number five, passwords are always private, except for mom and dad. And six, never download without permission. All right, you got those? All right, we're going to move on. Okay, next, we need to understand the game. All right, the makers of apps and all the platforms that we use, they understand the game. They understand how to keep us engaged in the app and how to keep us locked in and playing. And as parents, we need to understand that so that we can help our kids not become locked in, not become addicted, not become um, so entranced with media. And parents, we need to know this for ourselves because I'll be honest, a lot of kids are picking up habits from parents and other adults, and we're really harassing our kids, but we need to take a look in the mirror sometimes. And so let's look at some of these things that are built natively into apps and the platforms that we use so we can help set our kids up and that set our families up for success. All right, number one, autoplay. Autoplay is so easy to turn off, but man, it is so hard to pull ourselves away from. That's why we joke about Netflixing and binge, and we talk about jumping on YouTube and 2 hours later we got on to watch a 7-minute video and we're just not getting off, right? So turn off autoplay. And then what it does is it makes us kind of like hurdle something. So we have to jump a little fence to watch the next show. YouTube won't serve up the next video. It'll make us click to watch it, right? We can even set up, it to shut off at 30 minutes or whatever, but go in and set up so the autoplay doesn't normally just play. So the next video isn't just automatically served up, or at the very least on YouTube, that it will send us a reminder at 30 minutes or whatever it is that you want to set it to say, hey, do you still want to keep watching? All right. So autoplay. Number two, notifications. Those notifications come to our phone all day long. And what it does is it creates a problem with us to try to focus, because we're doing work and all of a sudden a notification goes off on our phone and we turn. And it is proven, scientifically proven, that once we take our mind off of a task, it takes us 23 minutes to get back in the zone again. Think about that, 23 minutes. So yes, we're working, and yes, we're, back on a project, but we are not really drilled down and in the zone for 23 minutes. So think about the struggle that your child's going to have if they're sitting down and they're trying to write a book report, and it's notifications, whether it's from your phone or their phone, keep dinging and dinging and dinging. So turn notifications off and set it up so that just twice a day or however many times a day you check on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, Snapchat. I know that ruins a Snapchat streak, but it's really the best way to go, because those notifications can cause us to lose so much time during our day, and it can take a task that should be 20 minutes and stretch it out to where it takes us 3 hours to do that task. All right, streaks. Streaks are when we're going back and forth with the person, and you can be the worst parent ever if you ruin your child's Snapchat. Man, I can talk today. Snapchat streak. But what that creates for our kids is this mentality that I am a good friend only if I'm at someone's beck and call. And that's really what it is. Do I get back instantly? And when we start that with kids at a very young age, it kind of creates a dangerous mindset for us, because it creates this friendship, which turns into this kind of dating mentality, courtship mentality, whatever your child's going to do, but that I am at someone's beck and call all the time. And so we see kids that now are really struggling to work and put their phone away to focus at work. So the streaks are really an unhealthy habit from just the heart of the way they're created, because we are always at someone's beck and call when we are doing streaks with someone. Randomness. So if we knew that Instagram was going to send a notification to us at 3 o'clock every day, we wouldn't worry about having our phone by us all the time. We just would know that our notifications came through at 3 o'clock every day. But instead, we get notifications from apps, from stores, from everyone at random times during the day. And what it creates is this sense that I need my phone all the time because I may miss something. So it's the randomness that we get sent these notifications from app providers, from game providers, from literally everyone, that creates this need that I need to be there because I may miss something. I never know when it's going to come through. So really work with your family on, it's okay to have device downtime. It's okay to have time that's set apart to focus on a task, whether it be school or your own time set apart to do family time, or it's great if you're modeling that, if you're working from home, or your life, but create moments in your family life that are, it's okay to put your devices down. And the last one, in-app purchases. So in-app purchases are those purchase opportunities that come through within an app. So you notice them a lot in free apps. So there's an app that's free, but then there's all these purchases, whether it's advertisements that take you out of the app, or whether it's things that you need to buy to make that app function better or get you more skill levels within an app. But in-app purchases are built within an app, and a lot of parents don't understand how tempting those are, or how easy those are for a kid to spend money and not even realize that they're spending money, especially if your account, your credit card is attached to that account anymore at all. So make sure that when you're setting up apps for your kids that they can't do in-app purchases at all. It just makes it so much easier from the start. All right. Understand the needs of your team. A lot of times we will see struggles with our kids simply because we don't understand the needs that really we have as humans. We need, number one, device downtime. We all need device downtime. Without it, we tend to really struggle with those notifications and with the randomness that things come through. So our kids will struggle when we tell them we have device downtime, especially if we're not starting it until they're teenagers. But they will also tell you that they struggle with the need to feel like they're always at someone's beck and call, or that they always have to be on. They never have any downtime. So set your family up for success by giving them device downtime. It can be dinner time, it can be a family day, it can be a set family time. Maybe you have Friday night family movie night, family game time, or whatever, but give your family permission to put their devices down by setting up family device downtime. Help your kids select quality apps and help them not constantly use those zone out apps. So set your child up for success by helping them pick out quality apps from the get go and help them choose wisely so that as they grow older, they're more prone to use apps that are good quality and apps that help them be productive. When you help your kids use apps that are high quality when they're younger, they are so busy doing things that are productive with their phones, they're going to be less likely to be spending all of their time on texting and social media apps that parents complain about because they're doing so many things that are productive. Teach your kids about device safety. Though that's something that every child needs to understand. They need to understand how to protect their devices. They need to know things about, you know, not banking online, how to not download malware. Those are things that our kids need to know before they get to be teenagers and definitely before they go out into the world or go out to college. So teach your kids those skills. Teach your kids about online safety. Teach them about how to stay safe online. Again, that's why it's so important that you teach your kids to come to you when they're scared or when they see something that is not right online, and that you're that calm presence. Be their harbor of safety. Teach them about online safety. Number 4, tech skills for the future. So teach them things like video creation, photo editing. And parents, you don't have to know all of these skills. You can lead them to resources and you can lead them to tutorials that will teach them or to online classes that will teach them this, but teach them the tech skills they need for the future because colleges are already um, wanting kids to know how to do minor editing of an image for even things like a science class or how to upload a video to YouTube. Your kids are going to need those skills when they go off. So make sure you're teaching them tech skills for the future. And lastly, digital citizenship. Teach your kids that when we speak to other people online, we should be speaking to them just like the person is face to face with us. So we shouldn't be using a different tone or and we shouldn't be speaking to them more harshly just because we can't see their facial expression. That in turn, we should actually be making sure that we use words that will express our tone because they can't see our facial expression. So teach them about digital citizenship. All right. And we need to have a plan. Oftentimes we're fighting within our families because we don't have a plan. So all of these things that we're doing because our kids don't know, and now we're correcting behavior. So be proactive in your home. Be proactive. Have that device downtime. Have a family digital media agreement. I love family digital media agreements because they allow you to be proactive. They allow your family to discuss what is okay in your home, what is not okay, what the boundaries are, and because you're talking to your kids about these things, it gives your kids a chance to voice what things would scare them, what things might embarrass them. It gives your kids as siblings a chance to talk about that as well. So have a family digital media plan. I suggest you talk about this about once every 18 months, because what's appropriate for a 9-year-old isn't is different than what's appropriate for a 13-year-old, is different than what's appropriate for a 15-year-old. And don't think about a family digital media agreement as simply like a contract that you have to sign, although you certainly can. And I have one on my website that you can download and use that way, but you can also use it as just something that your family discusses. Or you can use it as a basis for something that you put up in post in maybe the media section of your home, if you have like a computer station that everyone kind of uses out in a main area of your home. So there's different ways that you can use a family digital media agreement. So you can use it as a contract, something that you post, something that you just talk about. The main goal is that you have a plan and that you're implementing a plan and that everyone is talking about it. And the main goal of that family digital media agreement is it's kind of the basis to begin communication and discussions in your home about technology. Have a safe word. Have a safe word for your kids so that if they are out, or if they are at someone else's house, or if they are in the presence of friends and they get scared, or they see something that they don't want to be around, or they see something that is concerning to them, they can text you or they can say to you, and that you will zoom in and immediately have a plan to get them out of that situation. So have a safe word for your kids, because what that does is it takes the burden off of them and it puts it on you as the parent to go in there and be able to parent and get your child out of that situation. And especially for young kids, until they get to an age where they are able to kind of navigate those situations and have the skills to um, really handle the situation. So that kind of lets you be the heavy as the parent. All right, next, have a what if plan of action and then role play those. So that's a great way to build that um, build that kind of skill in your child. So having that safe word and then have those what if scenarios. So hey, what if you're at a party, a gathering of your friends, and someone plays a YouTube video and it has a lot of profanity and it has, maybe some images that we know we're not supposed to see and watch. What if that happens? Let's role play that and see how you would handle that, because your child may find themselves in that situation and now they don't know what to do. So you have that safe word, but then you're also helping build up some real practical ways, and you're giving your child a toolbox of how to handle that situation. All right, have a plan for tech skills that you want to show your kids. So in that family digital media agreement, you're mainly talking about a lot of, what's appropriate and what's not. But when you have that discussion, kind of have a list of like, here's where we are, here's where we want to be. So this is some things that we don't want to do, but here's some things we do want to do. So we would like to know how to create videos. We would like to know how to create some images. We would like to maybe make a family newsletter, and then maybe the kids want to be in charge of it. So what would your kids like to know? What would you as parents, what are some skills that you want them to have before they leave the home? Because now you have kind of a goal set of things that you want to learn, and you can kind of taper those out along the way for how you're going to learn those and how you're going to get from point A to point B. All right. You're going to teach with the end in mind. So you're going to use a lot of these things that we've talked about. The family digital media agreement, parental controls, filters, accountability programs, screen limits, device downtimes, always remembering that communication is your first filter. So you're teaching with the end in mind, kind of using that family media agreement and where you want to go with your family. So you want to teach you videos and what skills do you want to learn. Teach knowing that your end goal is to produce kids that have a healthy perspective of technology and social media. And then you're going to use all of these tools to kind of get you to that end goal. And one thing, parents, I want to say is that when you're learning something, when you're trying to get your kids to that, okay, we want to produce young adults that have a healthy perspective of technology and social media, you're going to have some blips along the way. Understand that you're going to have those. And as a parent, you do not take on this, okay, my child had this little blip or this little fall along the way. We are stopping all action now. I'm the worst parent ever. I've just raised the worst kid ever. So we're done with technology. That is not how we approach technology. We have the end goal and we understand that as our child is learning to run, they're going to learn to crawl. They're going to learn to walk. They may fall down. And if they fall down at home, that's okay. We pick them up, we dust them off, we figure out what we need to shore up, and we move along. All right. So let's talk about practically some of those things that you might do to help you along the way. Okay. Parental controls with young kids. A lot of times we don't think about young kids because we think, well, they're not going to search pornography or they're not going to do some of these things to put them out of the balance. But the thing about young kids is because, again, we're talking about um, generation alpha, right? They're born into a world that not only are they used to, they're born into a world with iPads, they can just use these things fluidly, but now they're used to hearing us use voice recognition. Um, so it's just natural to them. They're going to pick up a device, and if it doesn't have any sort of um, pin locks or any sort of screen lock on it, they're just going to be able to go anywhere on your screen. So you need to think about parental controls for young ones because they can just intuitively use the device. All right. So what are some options? Android has Google Family Link, and it's really easy to use. It's meant for kids ages 13 and younger. Again, don't worry about grabbing these screenshots. I will make those available to you. Here's what I want to say about Google Family Link. I love Google Family Link, but understand when your child reaches the age of 13, they're going to get an email from Google at this point in time that asks them if they want their parent to continue to monitor their account or if they want control of it. So at this point in time, if your child is using an Android device, you want to be the primary user and set them up as a guest. Because when they approach the age of 13, Google is going to give them the option, and you're not going to have that option. So then, if they choose to continue to manage their account, you now aren't going to be the primary user. They can switch that and be the primary user of that device if you, in fact, have not set yourself up as the primary user. So that is the one thing about Android devices that I still have a little bit of a hesitancy about. I love Android devices and I'm a huge Android lover and I use Google, but with that Google Family Link, that is the way it works. So at the age of 13, your child gets to make that decision. So just understand that as they approach the age of 13. And I am recommending that parents be the primary user on Android devices for kids because of that one thing. But I do love the way Family Link works because there are many, many options and it's easy to control. Um, the next thing is if you have an iOS device, it's super easy to use. Use guided access for kids that are very, very young. It will lock them into the app, and that's especially really great if you have young kids that you put on an app to use for like educational purposes, and then you look over and they're, playing Ant Smasher or some other, game that's not educational. You can use that guided access. So it's under general accessibility and then guided access. And that in essence kind of locks them into playing whatever you set up for them to play. So that's a really great thing for young kids until kind of they're at an age where they're, really, okay, this is what we're doing. And if you're going to not use the educational apps during school time, then we just lose that privilege or whatever, however you want to monitor that. But the guided access is a really great feature in iOS, especially for young kids. iOS also has a really great platform for monitoring like websites, and you can go in and allow just based on ratings and stuff, but you can also allow just specific websites. So if you have a very young child and you just want to go in and allow certain websites for them, like 2 or 3 websites because they're very, younger, you can do that as well. And so that's one thing I really love about Apple devices. You can do location sharing, or you can turn it off. So, think about what works for your family as far as that goes. And you can also turn that off. Think about turning that off for things like Snapchat, because Snapchat, if you don't turn that off, Snapchat has where it puts you on the map. So, think through when you're thinking about technology and, an overall plan for your family. Think about the specific apps that your kids are using and how those apps function, and what are the safety features and the private versus public features of those. So the public feature of Snapchat puts everyone on a map. So you can set that off on Snapchat, but then go ahead and I recommend making sure that it's off on the actual settings of the device as well. All right, so let's talk about YouTube quickly, because YouTube is like a whole huge big ball of wax in itself. So YouTube safety for young kids, there certainly is YouTube Kids, and that's an option. But the other option is to put safety mode on your computer. And when you talk about YouTube, you have to address it from like every angle. So YouTube safety, it's browser specific. So you need to go in, and if you use more than one browser, so if you use Firefox and Internet Explorer and Google Chrome, Safari, you need to go into each browser and then go to YouTube and set it for each of those browsers. So go out to your profile and then go down and go to the restricted mode and make sure that you toggle that so that it's on restricted mode. All right, and then in your iOS devices, you toggle restricted mode on. And then again, when we're talking about that autoplay, go in there and set that autoplay so that the autoplay doesn't automatically serve up the next video. And safety mode for Android devices, you can go into your account and turn that restricted mode on. And I want to show also that Android devices have the turn on incognito. So go ahead and make sure that is not checked, because if your child is incognito, then you're not seeing it's not creating a history. If you do have stuff come up in their history, or if you are seeing things in YouTube that are coming up that you don't want to see, and it's because your child has maybe searched for something, go ahead and clear the watch history, clear the search history out, and get all that cleared out. And then start from afresh and new again. And do that in any of the browsers. So if your child has ever searched something and that's populating things in YouTube that you don't want to see, that is the time to go in and clear that watch history and clear the search history, get that cleared out of there. So if that's been an issue and things are populating into your child's feed, it's probably because that history needs to be cleared, and all that needs to be cleared out. So that is a time to go in and clear their history. And then also on Android, it's to be able to pause and not have a bunch of things keep play. Go over and they'll remind me to take a break. So set it for 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever you want to set that for time wise. All right. So are we all feeling good about YouTube now? All right, and there's some tutorials on my website for YouTube, and again, the handout has these screenshots, so don't feel stressed that you didn't get all the screenshots while we're trying to get through the presentation here. I know it's a lot to take in, all right? All right, so let's talk about apps a little bit because those play into our overall digital media plan as a family. So when we are searching for apps, a lot of parents tell me it's very overwhelming when they go into the app store and they're selecting apps because things will say they're educational, but they're like, I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, I don't know, is that really educational? Doesn't seem like it. And I know I get that, and part of that is because um, app developers get to select the category for their app. So it's a little bit, kind of arbitrary because if I'm an app developer, I may think that my app is educational when in fact it really may not have a lot of educational content to it. It may be a lot of fluff, right? So we need to be looking for the 4 C's of apps, four educational C's of apps. That really, are they kind of educational or are they fluff? So really think about it. As homeschoolers, we talk about when we're looking at literature, is it really good quality, high quality literature, or is it fluff? So think about apps in those terms. Is it really educational or is it kind of fluff? So look for these 4 C's, and that's going to kind of help determine if the app is really educational, or if you don't see any of these 4 C's in it, then it's kind of a lot of fluff. So the first C is connection. Is your child really connecting with the app? So are they excited about the content? Is it something that's meaningful to them? Because if it is, then they're really learning, because we know that we learn about things that's interesting to us and we're really excited about them. So does your child all of a sudden have a really fondness and fascination with butterflies or insects? Okay, go out and find some apps that have to do with that, because they're going to really want to explore butterflies and insects, and so you're adding to their learning. So find an app that helps them identify butterflies, that maybe helps, shows them how to make some butterfly houses. So anything like that that your child's connected to, they're going to learn from. Okay, the next thing is apps that help them think critically, because there's a lot of apps out there that are just fluff. And I say kind of make us, give us the zombie eyes, like the old Scooby Doo eyes. And those are called the zone out apps. And, at the end of the day, your child might want to relax, but they're kind of relaxing and not really learning anything. We need very few of those apps, if any at all. The apps that we're really learning from are the apps that we're engaging our brain on and are causing us to think critically and really think. So if your child is used to using a lot of zone out apps, when you start having them use the apps that make them think critically, they're going to say things like, my brain hurts, I don't like this app. And it's because we're giving them an app that like actually makes them think. So but the apps that help them think critically are a lot of the apps that are the apps that some of the algebra apps, like you know a lot of the math apps, the ones that teach algebra, some of the logic apps, the coding apps. A lot of those apps are great for helping kids think critically. Context apps that help kids put things in context. So where do I fit into the world? A lot of the history apps, or a lot of the nature apps are really great for context as well. So what's really fun about those apps, or a lot of those apps will, you know, be an app that kids can play, but also inspire them to like go out and do something. So maybe do a project, or even get them out walking around as they're using the apps. So those apps are apps that your kid won't just want to stay home, and they'll be inspired to go out and do something. So apps that help them put things in context. Fourth is apps that help kids be creative. So a lot of the music apps, art apps, coloring apps, graphic apps, any of those apps that help inspire creativity. So a lot of apps will have a couple of these, 3 of these. Maybe you'll hit a jackpot and an app will have all 4 of these. So, but you want apps to have at least one of these. 2 of these is great. But look for apps that have the 4 C's, and that will help you be able to select great apps for your kids. All right, the next thing we talk about when we're talking about digital media is it active or passive consumption? So are we actively engaged with the app, or the media? So an app, we might be actively engaged. If we're doing anything like we're creating a video, we're actively engaged with it. We're actually doing something. We're moving and engaging with the media, versus if we're watching a video, that's passive consumption. So we want to do more active and less passive consumption. So just think about that: more active and less passive consumption in our day. All right, so let's look at an actual app. Here is an app called Tiffany's Dream World. And if you look at it, it is labeled, this came from the education app category, and it's labeled for everyone, but you can see it contains ads. It offers in-app purchases. So that's really where, if you go back to the 4 C's of educational apps, you can really help determine if an app is indeed educational or not when you start to get in here and look at it. And then if you kind of look at the notes within this app, and this is right from the Play Store, so this is stuff that you can see right before you download it. It says, while the app is free, please be aware that the paid content is for real money, upon which users wish to enhance their gaming experience. So you can control the in-app purchases made within the app by using password protection. So you'll need to set up a password protection in the Google Play Store. And parents, this is where, if you're an Android user, you would want to use Family Link and or set up your child's account to where they would have to use a password before they could download or do anything where they would get an in-app purchase. So, but again, your really high quality apps, it's better to buy an app for $1.99 or $2.99 or even $4.99 without in-app purchases than to get a free one and risk your child having in-app purchases. But here's where you really want to look, parents. You want to look at how many installs an app has, and then you want to really dig into the permissions. And if the permissions don't make sense for an app, then you shouldn't be downloading it. So if you have an app and it's asking for permissions to your contacts, or it's asking permissions to the camera, but there's no image, it doesn't need images from your phone, those permissions start to not make sense. If it's asking for permissions to the location, but there's no reason for it to, especially if it's a child's app, then you do not want your child, that's not an app you want to download for your child, nor one that you want your child to download. So be sure that you're checking the permissions before you download an app to your child's device. The other thing that you can do is, under developer, visit their website, check out their website, check out the website for the apps that you're putting on your child's phone, and make sure that you're comfortable with the developer. In this case, with this app, under permissions, it's asking for the location, but there's no reason why it needs access to the location. It's also asking for the photo media files on the phone, so pretty much everything, and the storage to read the contents of the USB storage on the phone. So this one, in my book, instantly, if I'm looking at that, would be an immediate no for a child that I would have in my house. All right. Understand how we're using media in our house and how that influences our kids. So if we are zoning out, and if we're sharing really personal information, our kids see that, and that is in fact the model that we create for them. So how do we want our digital media, the way we use it, to influence our kids? All right, and let's touch on filters really quickly. Understand that communication is your first filter. Do not use a filter, number one, without telling your children. Explain to them, we're using this filter and this is why. But then also understand that you still want your child communicating with you about what is happening and what is going on, because a filter will tell you hey, your child went to this website, or this has been filtered out, but it doesn't tell you the why behind it. So you still want your child to be talking to you about what's going on in their lives, and as they get older in the lives when they're with their friends back and forth. But these are filters definitely that you should be using when your kids are younger, because they're young and you want to try to screen out some of that stuff. So Disney Circle and Koala Safe are great filters to use, especially when you have larger families and kids of different ages, because you can allow um, sites and social media platforms for kids that are older, while disallowing it for kids that are younger. It also has some fun features like the pause button, so you can pause everyone and put their devices on hold for things like family dinner. You can easily set time limits and things like that. So those are really great for that. Up in the top corner, the eyeball, that's Covenant Eyes. The thing I like about Covenant Eyes is they have an accountability program. And the way an accountability program, what makes it different than a filter is um, it doesn't filter things before it comes into your home. Instead, the person would get an alert that says, hey, there's objectionable content on this page. Do you want to proceed? They can override that and go to the page, but their accountability partner that you've pre-set up beforehand gets a list of all of the websites that they've visited. So what you're doing is you're teaching your child to eventually self-monitor. You're going from a filter to an accountability program to hopefully releasing your child into a world that they're able to self-monitor. So I love the idea of, beginning with filters and then moving to something like an accountability program with Covenant Eyes to eventually your child, becoming an adult with the skills to be able to self-monitor. So something like Covenant Eyes, their accountability filter, works really great for that. And you can set up you as a parent to be the accountability person, or a small group leader. You can set up anyone to be that accountability partner. In the corner, the dog image, that is Bark. What I love about Bark is they work with a lot of platforms that the other filters do not monitor. So they can monitor Snapchat, Instagram, a lot of text messages. Now, I will say that if you're on an Apple device, they do not work well with Apple, because Apple itself does not allow third parties to monitor text messaging and things like that. But it works really well for the computer. It works really well for Android devices and other things. So if your child is really heavily into things like Instagram, Snapchat, text messaging, Bark is a great platform to use. And they have really taken a lot of strides in the areas of bullying and also self-harm. So if that's a concern to you as a parent, you can get text alerts. You will get text alerts if there's a text message or images that would send an alert for bullying or self-harm. And so you can read those messages and then dig in deeper to what may be going on there. So those are some platforms, filters that I really, really highly recommend. And again, the links for those are in your parent handout. You can also filter right with your own internet service provider, and you can call them and let them know that you'd like to do that, and they can walk you through. But basically, this is one from my own area out here where we live. But you can go in and set up internet blocking, and you can do it by device. You can do it by time. And it's very specific. So basically, you're just going in through your router and doing that. And it works very similar. It looks very similar to like Disney Circle. You're just going in right to your router and doing it, instead of letting a device like Disney Circle or Koala Safe do that for you. All right, let's talk about bouncing back when our kids fall. When our kids fall, again, do not take that as it's some, you're wearing this big scarlet letter of shame and your child's wearing this big scarlet letter of shame. Give your kids grace, get them off of the field, really dive into what happened. I've talked to parents many times where something has happened and they haven't really understood what, and then maybe a punishment has been, given to their child. And then later on, they found out that there was way more to that text message than what they understood. So maybe their child was punished, and then they found out that there were some bullying issues going on that they didn't understand, or there was a lot more behind that. So it's why I really say communication is your first filter, but get your kid off the field. So, you know, do not punish them on social media by announcing that, hey, my child's not going to be on Instagram or Facebook for a while, or they've had their cell phone removed because they're grounded for XXX. Do not punish them on the public field. Get them off the field, find out what's going on, um, dust them off, brush them off, put filters in place if you need to, but then get them back up on the field and evaluate that injury. And, understand that you're working with them to produce a child that, a young adult, a child that grows into a young adult that has a healthy perspective of technology and social media. So some kids you may need to work with a little more than others. Some kids are really love technology. Some kids are just going to really be more towards the productive side of technology. Some kids are going to struggle a little more with, what do people think of me? And I need to always be there for my friends. Some kids are naturally people. They want to be around people. They want to be on the social media platforms, and so it's going to take a little more time for them to understand how to use platforms and not be drawn. And honestly, those are your kids that are always going to want to, be at every teen activity. It's not the technology so much, it's more they want to be where all their friends are. So technology allows them to connect with their friends easier, but the issue of always wanting to be around my friends, it's still, I always want to be around my friends. So you're really helping them learn how to communicate, and you're working through communication issues. So if you really drill down to the heart of what is the communication issue, and how can we work through how that's playing out in the realm of technology, that will kind of help you get to the heart of the issue with your child, and then understand, some of what are some of those friction points that we're dealing with, maybe because we're a digital native and a digital immigrant. Are any of those creating friction points, and how can we talk through those? So um, keep training your team, keep pushing through those, come back to that digital media agreement and shore up those areas that you need to shore up. But use technology as a skill and advantage. And I'd encourage you to do things like text your teens, have fun with technology in your home, because when you do, it becomes this really fun thing that you can have great conversations around as a family. And you want to have more positive conversations than you have negative conversations, because when you have those negative conversations, your kids are going to be more open to it because you've had 5 positive conversations before. All right, parents, you can do this. Thanks for being here today. If you have questions, because we are in the digital space, please feel free to email me. It's Leah, Leah, at leahnieman.com. Grab those handouts, dig into those resources. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll chat soon.